When proceedings started this afternoon, members of the Republican-led House General Investigating Committee explained why the House is considering impeachment today. They said that if he had not been for Paxton's request for a taxpayer-funded settlement in a whistleblower case, Paxton would not be facing impeachment by the House.
I have great appreciation and respect for the many, many things that he has done for this state. Frankly, Attorney General Paxton deserves praise for his fierce, consistent efforts to push back on behalf of Texas against unconstitutional federal mandates, executive orders, rules, and laws. But members, no one person should be above the law, least not the top law enforcement official of the state of Texas. We each took an oath of office. Attorney General Paxton took an oath of office. He violated that oath. He put the interest of himself above the laws of the state of Texas.
And as you just heard there, a big part of that conversation was no one is above the law. So that was the people who are on the side of impeaching Attorney General Ken Paxton. On the other side, though, they were saying these proceedings are just happening way too fast.
And of course, it is impeachment that we now know is carrying the day. Darrenisha, I do want to tell you that just within the past few minutes, Ken Paxton has released a statement on Twitter. He says, "I'm beyond grateful to have the support of millions of Texans who recognize that what we just witnessed is illegal, unethical, and profoundly unjust," he says. "I look forward to a quick resolution in the Senate where I have full confidence that the process will be fair and just," he says.
And speaking of the Senate, we know that they are the ones who will have this ultimate decision in regards to votes. How do you think he lies within the Senate?
Well, first of all, we know very little at this stage about when the Senate could potentially take this up. There has been some discussion that they may try to, in fact, do it before sine die, the last day of the legislative session, which, by the way, is Monday. Or there is also the discussion that they could bring senators back at some point to take up this matter. But in terms of how long a potential trial may last, those are all open questions at this point. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who will preside over that proceeding, has said very little about the organizational logistics. One thing that he has said publicly to our colleague at WFAA, Jason Whiteley, in an interview earlier this week, is that he does expect that senators will be fair jurors and fairly assess all of the evidence on both sides that is brought before them. But again, the logistics of when and how exactly that will happen, we do not yet know.
Right, because all of this is happening so fast. So those who are against the impeachment process also made arguments today questioning how much evidence House members have had access to in this process and what they're calling a rushed timeline.
I don't know whether he should or not because I don't have the evidence before me to make that determination. All I'm telling you is this House cannot legitimately and in good faith and under the rule of law impeach General Paxton today on the record that it has before it. It's what I call the hang 'em now and judge 'em later policy. The consequences of our impeachment is that he will be removed from the responsibilities of his office, even though his guilt or innocence has not yet been adjudicated.
Well, now we know that they decided to go ahead and move forward with impeaching him. So that portion of it, I guess, didn't make a huge impact on their decision.
That is correct. Again, when you look at the 121 votes in favor of impeachment versus the 23 against, we know that clearly the overwhelming group wanted to impeach. But one thing, Darrenisha, that I'm trying to do just even as we speak is go through the list to identify which Republicans voted in favor of impeachment. Of course, that is a big question and a big part of this equation because what we have seen in many instances is Republicans crossing the political aisle and voting against Ken Paxton, who, by the way, still enjoys support, at least judging by the last election, his statewide election in November, still enjoys significant support among GOP voters in Texas. And it is that support, by the way, that could possibly have some influence in coming days about how senators vote.